Okay.
What's up?
Sorry. That was disgusting what I just did. I'll cut it out. What's up?
What's up?
What's up, old sport?
Oh, man.
Do you get it? It's because he says old sport in the film a lot. Great Gatsby says old sport.
Does he? You know how sometimes like they do a censor board check of how many times someone says fuck in a movie? Or
Yeah.
I think they should censor old sport after about 240 times. Every time he says thank you, beep,
Old sport?
They should just beat that shit.
I think one of the major issues I have with this film, and I like this movie, Leo just does not get the voice. He doesn't do the like mid-Atlantic thing that you expect of him, and which is weird because he kind of can. He's just not doing it in this movie very well. Sometimes he'll be like putting on the voice and being like, "Hello, old sport," and then he'll sound like fucking who he is in The Departed. And
you know what?
Yeah, like it doesn't work.
I have something controversial to say.
Do you
Get ready.
Do you want to save it? Because we have other things to talk about at first, though. I want to talk about some stuff that's not The Great Gatsby for a second.
Okay, get into it.
I'm thinking about this. So I had been at work thinking.
You've been at work thinking?
Been at work thinking.
Disgusting.
I had a job. I had to get a job.
Oh, now you think about stuff?
Yeah. You know what they say is that if you get do what you love, you'll never work a day in your life.
And you don't.
I don't do that either. I work every day.
So you work every day of your life.
I work every day. And I don't love it. But, it's not that bad. But we saw a film.
Yeah.
We saw one film that might as well be worth 3.
Hell yeah.
A film called The Brutalist.
My God.
We saw it in 70 millimeter special presentation.
Fuck
at the theater where they filmed the butterfly effect.
Wait, that is true.
Yeah.
I fucking looked into. Yo, this is the closest I've come to having an experience where it feels like you're watching a movie in India.
Yeah.
Because this had about 400 people at the cinemas.
It's packed.
No seats were empty.
Cinephilia was alive that night.
True cinephiles.
Yeah.
A lot of them like quite literally stretching their legs in preparation for this film.
Well, that little stupid fucking dweeb in front of us was like being a fucking huge dork.
She's a cinephile.
Yeah.
Okay. She's a true appreciator.
She was dancing only shortly after one of the characters gets raped.
Yeah. Hey, spoilers.
Spoiler.
Yeah.
Right, sorry about that. We never really talked about it though. What did you think of it?
I was totally fucking into it. The whole time I was like, yeah, nothing is taking my attention away. Even though I've been here for 14 years at this point. Like it is quite a long film.
Yeah, it's a little long.
Even with the intermission. Especially for you, because you've had a full day of work.
Yeah, but
then
babe, you know what they say?
It.
You do what you love and you never work a day in your life. But also my
you.
feet really hurt that day.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, despite doing what I love and not feeling like work.
And you got to wear your work pants for like 18 hours.
I had to wear
day?
pants for over 12 hours. That was a real horrible. Yeah, you really liked it then.
But you know what? It's a one and done for me. All right. It's a vibe movie. This is not something that I'd be like, all right, I'm in the mood for some.
Let's get brutal.
Let's get
brutalized. No. Yeah.
It didn't pull me out, but it wasn't really that immersive because I'm very aware of like, actors doing serious acting. That's what it felt like.
I don't like it as much as you do. I don't think. I thought it was good. I thought it was an undeniably really, really well made film.
Yeah.
I think it's probably one of the best films of the year. It's definitely an experience worth having. Mm-hmm. Although I will say, having now seen a film in 70 millimeter, I don't give a fuck.
What? So it's a big square? Like I don't. What? Okay.
There was no reason to see that film in a special presentation in 70 millimeter at that theater. It was just like I was like, what's the fucking difference? This isn't IMAX or anything. It just wasn't that interesting for that. I thought it was like a good movie. And it was long, and I get that, but I never was like bored at any point. I thought it was all interesting. However, I have to say, like, eventually I was kind of like, oh, just isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
And that's not totally true. That's just how I felt about it. And I won't say what happens, but I truly thought, like, I thought the ending was like, I don't fucking care.
Oh, the ending might be the worst part.
I thought
about
the
ending
was like really not good.
I agree. I agree. Like the way it kind of just just wrapped it all up, put a bow on it, and gave it to your neighbor. It was not
the end,
all the build up.
It felt too pedestrian.
Yeah.
It felt like it's like, I won't say, but it's like what happens. The ending kind of sequence, the epilogue, because it is actually the epilogue. Is like, I'm like, oh yeah, I could go out tonight and see something like that happening in any city in the world.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't feel that interesting, you know?
No,
and it's like, it doesn't feel like it has a lot of gravity. And so I don't know. I thought it was like an incredible acting showcase. I liked Felicity Jones. I thought she was pretty good. I thought Guy Pearce was incredible. I thought
Daniel Radcliffe was great in it.
Old Daniel Radcliffe I thought was great. And Taylor Swift's ex-boyfriend was really good. But like,
yeah,
it was a film that I think even I didn't like. A lot of people like talk about it, comparing it to like There Will Be Blood. And I'm not a crazy big fan of There Will Be Blood, but I was like, yeah, but there's a certain je ne sais quoi about that movie
Definitely.
that The Brutalist was lacking a little bit. And another thing too was like so many people that I listened to really built up the score, and I thought it was just all right.
Okay.
I thought it like had a couple good moments, but I was like, yeah, it's fine.
I don't think I paid it much mind, but
no,
you're
it wasn't
more
that,
aware of that.
It wasn't like that intrusive.
It didn't stand out that much
but
to me.
There was a lot of aspects. It's like if you're a true cinephile like us and that stupid dancing dork in front of us, you should go and see it. It was a very good movie, and it's like it's worth seeing in theaters.
Yeah.
It's worth like it's kind of, I said this about The Irishman. It's like it's kind of interesting exercise doing this stamina of seeing this like epic movie. But if you're gonna do it at home, just watch The Irishman. It's a way better film.
Oh yeah.
But,
like
yeah.
With this film, with Brutalist, it felt like I've never seen a story like this before, because it doesn't really dwell in the past, even though every decision is informed by it.
Yeah.
Everything you see is a result of where this character has been in his life.
Yeah.
But there's no like, oh, we're going to cut to a flashback. You don't get any of that boring shit.
I like that. I like that
it's
stuff.
Great, yeah.
Because it does feel like it's like the sequel to The Pianist. Like it's like he's coming from Europe because of the Holocaust and stuff, and there's some really affecting stuff about being Jewish and an immigrant in America. Like it's an academically, I'm like, this is a great movie. It just didn't like hit like 10 out of 10 for me.
Yeah.
Although like thinking of it, I'm kind of like, yeah, like that's definitely one of the best movies of the year.
Yeah.
But yeah, like you were saying about being like a one and done, I'm like, I think I would rewatch it to try and be like, what am I missing about this film? You know, because I think there is stuff there, and it's undoubtedly too. It's incredible that they made it for like $9.5 million. That's like unbelievable.
Wild. Yeah,
but at the same time,
Will they make it back? Like,
part of me, like the bitch in me is kind of like, I mean, I wish they had 50 million. I wish they could have made it for 50. I wish Brady Corbett could have realized his vision at a larger scale. You know, but what he managed to do was like pretty amazing, and
it felt like really meditative to me.
Yeah.
It reminded me a lot of like A Hidden Life, just like the vibe of it, if not the pace. Or
I mean, A Hidden Life is so much more languid and like The Brutalist at least has a story that pushes forward. A Hidden Life is a 3.5 hour movie where one thing happens. Like, and I love that movie. I think it's like one of the most beautiful films ever made, but it is like The Brutalist would keep my attention, even though I saw Hidden Life in theaters too. And I was like, I mean, that's long. That was a long film, but The Brutalist kind of moves at a pace that's a little better than that film, I think. But that's the Terrence Malick experience. So you love him or hate him, Mr. Malick.
Ooh.
Speaking of The Brutalist, though, we're covering a movie today that I would argue has some similarities to The Brutalist.
Oh, how so?
America.
Okay.
No, like I was thinking about it in relation to we're talking about The Great Gatsby today. Welcome. This is The Low Ceiling. I'm John. You're Pre. We're talking about The Great Gatsby 2013, the Baz Luhrmann enjoyed film by some people.
Yeah, that's well put.
It's not a masterpiece like Romeo and Juliet, which some people should acknowledge is a masterpiece. It's no Strictly Ballroom, but it is a movie that I quite enjoy.
You enjoyed Great Gatsby.
I enjoy it. But
right.
the idea that I thought about with The Brutalist was like the achievement of the American dream that's advertised and the failure to reach it because you are forever stuck in your socioeconomic level is a theme that kind of happens in The Brutalist too. He's forever seen as not like a second class citizen, but he's seen as a citizen below the level of Guy Pearce. And Gatsby is also that person, despite being the richest person around. When he's found out for what he truly is, people still see him as like, you cannot break free of this.
Yeah.
And you can't get Daisy. You can't get these things because you're just a swindler and a crook.
That's right.
Because you didn't do it legitimately, even though Tom Buchanan is a worse person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You weren't like born into wealth or...
Nah.
Like even if you are a self-made man, you were once not that.
Which is the American dream ostensibly, and yet he still can't achieve it. He still can't reach for it. He reaches for it and never touches it.
The whole thing with him reaching for all the riches, and we're talking Mr. Gatsby himself wanting the most in the world.
Please call him Jay.
Sorry. We go by Jay. JG. Also the musical artist on this. Great job. He wants all the riches in life to be able to get Daisy.
Yeah.
Who's fucking basic and sucks.
I want to talk about her more, but go on.
But like I have no like interest in a person like that on screen where there's nothing interesting about them. Two, they're kind of an alcoholic, probably because they're
Jay or Daisy.
Daisy.
Yeah.
They're kind of in a
Are you giving them they them pronouns?
Sorry. Daisy's always like the kind of person, I mean, like when there's a character like that who's like
the collective they.
The collective they of like I just don't know how to choose between these two men.
Yes.
But you don't. One, also you already made a decision for money. So congratulations, like you don't deserve.
She becomes a bit of a villain, Daisy.
Yeah, but I think she's always been a villain.
Yeah.
Because she chose, like by choice, she got $300,000 in pearl necklaces. She's like, see you, sucker. I'm going to go get married.
Yeah.
To this awful guy who loves polo. Disgusting.
Not
disgusting. Even a real sport. Fuck out of here.
And furthermore, it's Joel Edgerton.
Yeah, it's Joel Edgerton.
Yeah.
Make a choice.
Joel Edgerton, his head is so big and he's in such great shape in this film, and yet you're still like, you've got a thick neck and head.
The thickest neck.
Which is weird because I think in the novel, I haven't read the novel for ages, but he was like a rugby player. And in this, they turn him into a polo player.
Oh, yeah.
But
in
real life, the inspiration for Daisy and Tom Buchanan, Minerva and some other fucking guy that she went off and married that F. Scott Fitzgerald was like, this sucks. He was a polo player. So I wonder if they're... Anyway, I read... It's
Look,
so... Daisy... Okay. No, go. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, if she did it for the right reason, a.k.a. his body, I'd be like, all right, get it, girl.
He is in great shape, though.
Yeah, but she was like, oh, I'm going to do it for his money and then feel badly when my ex-boyfriend comes back.
She has a kid with him, though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
wrap it up.
Okay, so my impression of Daisy, and it's funny because, like, Nick Carraway, the character, has always been, he's fascinating in how he's like the original Perks of Being a Wallflower. Like he's the original guy who is like the observer to more interesting people, and he just kind of sits and philosophizes about them, which is interesting in its own right. But like it's a fascinating story because your protagonist doesn't have a lot of agency or action. He doesn't really drive the plot that much, although he takes part in it, I think, which is different from how like a lot of books and films are kind of written today. Is like you want a protagonist who drives the action, but he's like he's observing these people who are infinitely like more interesting than him. Ultimately, though, in like what I read, and I've never really felt this before, but like Daisy is kind of the most interesting character. Not because her in the text itself, I think, is interesting, but what people just read into her, I find fascinating, because what I think is so lasting and why this book and this film are so like have endured the test of time is because you can read multiple interpretations into it, and you see what you kind of like see, I think, what is important to you at any given time in the characters. Is very much, I find that very similar to Fight Club. Is like Fight Club, I think, endures as a book, not so much a movie, but the book is like you can latch on to the important parts of the theme, which are many and which are multifaceted, and kind of be like, oh, this is the thing I read into it now that I'm 30 or now that I'm 40 or whatever, right? And I think Great Gatsby is the same way. And I went into it when we watched it recently, and I've seen this movie a bunch of times because it's like such a fresh watch. It's like it's rewatchable in many ways. It's very entertaining. It's Baz Luhrmann kind of going insane, and like there's so many parts of it that are so bad, and also so many parts that are really good, like really good, and
like the music.
I'll talk about that. But like there's aspects of it that I truly think are fantastic, and there's others that I'm just like, man, this sucks. But what I was getting at was like, in rewatching it this time, I had always had these like preconceived notions about Daisy as a character. And then we watched it, and I was kind of like, yeah, she's kind of a villain. Like she's kind of a villain. And she ends up, the twist, if any, of this film is that, Daisy ends up being the bad guy. Yeah. But in like further reading about her as a character, and this is all taken, like I read a bunch on Wikipedia, I read some other stuff about it. Over time, the perception of her character has shifted a lot, and people have been like, okay, hold on. And this is actually, I think it's such a good point. People are like, well, wait. She doesn't have a lot of agency in the story as a woman. And that's one of the themes that kind of comes through in a more modern reading of The Great Gatsby, is that women are marginalized to a greater extent in a way that a book written in the 20s, people would be like, yeah, well, I don't want to read a book about chicks.
Well, yeah, of course.
Dudes do stuff, not ladies.
Yeah.
They should just have sex and party and just look hot.
Obviously.
Which Daisy is, that's her thing, right?
Which all the like female characters in this do. All they do is party, look pretty.
Jordan Baker, pretty one-dimensional character, played by one of my favorite actresses, but you know, like she's basically like Jordan Baker is basically like she's literally a model who plays golf, and for no reason at all is like, hey, Nick Carraway, I'll suck your dick. Like she would throw herself at Nick Carraway.
Well, yeah, because it's like a fresh face in the town outside of everyone.
Who's clearly gay.
Yeah. Tobey Maguire's character is like, I look deeply into your eyes, and I think you're greater than the sum of all parts of your friends put together.
Like, yeah, and he's
no
like,
homo.
But he's also like, oh yeah, Elizabeth Debicki. No thanks. Like, what are you talking about? Like, she's amazing, but. But Daisy, she has very little agency. And what I found really interesting about reading, and I fucking don't remember the scholar who said this, but they were talking about how she's this object to Tom Buchanan, right? In that she's the mother of his child, but also he doesn't respect her. And she is just kind of like a hot lady from good money who can be paired up with him. Yeah. And that makes sense in society's view of things. And he gets to go philander and fuck around and play polo, if you get my drift, and do all this kind of stuff. And she gets to play the part of this like rich flapper girl who just is kind of like a bit of a daft floozy who's just like, I just sit around and I drink wine and I smoke pipes and whatever she does, right? The other part of that is that Gatsby comes back into her life, and all Gatsby wants is like, Daisy is a symbol to him of what it means to achieve the American dream, the way that Tom has it. So Gatsby comes in and he's just like, I can't live this type of life without you, Daisy. But he doesn't really give a shit about her. He just cares about what she can do for him. Right. And I find that reading of her character so much more compelling. Because originally, back in like so if people don't know, The Great Gatsby was written in the 20s, and it was pretty much like a failure. and F. Scott Fitzgerald like died after his 9th heart attack or whatever, thinking like Great Gatsby was a failure. He was just like, oh, no one likes my writing, no one cares about me, no one likes me. So he died thinking it was a failure. And later his friend, I think his name was Edmund Wilson, he like really campaigned for this book. He was like, come on, it's so much more meaningful than people are giving it credit for. We should bring it back into the public eye. We should examine it. And the really interesting thing was that I believe it was World War II. The U.S. Army had a list of acceptable books that GIs could be given out in the field to read. And Great Gatsby was among them. Oh. And when they came back, everyone in the Army had read The Great Gatsby. And it became super popular from the late 40s onwards.
That's cool.
But in that popularity, the reading of Daisy's character was like, she's such a bitch.
Like, well, yeah, because she's
literally.
like, I just want some fucking Lexapro. Dude. Like, I'm just so bummed out all the time. So I'm probably postpartum. So I'm just drinking myself to boredom. And all I want to do is party because that's the only way to kind of shake off
the malaise.
Yeah.
Of being a woman with no agency, really.
Yeah.
Like she it's so funny because she has this in this movie especially, and I think Carey Mulligan's really good in this. This might be her best role, but like she's given this manic pixie dream girl-esque performance, but on purpose.
Yeah,
it's
of course.
She is like the template of it. She's supposed to be that way. She's supposed to be a critique of the fact that women, and I don't know if Baz Luhrmann was going for that at all, but in the story it comes across as that, in my opinion. And yeah, she's not really given the space to develop as a character because she's only seen as a symbol. Boom. Brutalized.
God damn it. Write a book already. Jesus. John Scott Fitzgerald over here.
Babe, I find our conversations intellectually stimulating.
I hate it. I hate it so much. Oh, God.
Yeah. So that's my spiel about Daisy.
I feel like the only reason everyone gives a shit about this as a film is because they're rich. Yeah,
that's part of the allure, certainly.
Yeah. And I know that is the driving force of all the decision making in this movie. Sorry, in the book itself. Even if they kind of take away from all the grandeur, right? All the disco balls, all that shit. If they just had to portray old money in a way that it's kind of boring, in a way that it's like, welcome to my mansion, and just like here's a free Rolex or whatever, and they're just sitting around and talking. I don't
Succession.
know. Yeah, exactly.
Kinda.
If it was like Succession, where it's kind of like that quiet wealth, but they're stupid rich.
Yeah,
I would find that more compelling because then I won't be distracted by like everyone looking like a peacock.
Yeah.
Because I don't give a single fuck about anybody in this film.
No.
But the book is incredible. The book is so compelling.
But like that's kind of Nick's thing too, is like Nick has it's so funny because Nick has such a bad time partying in this movie that he has to go to an insane asylum. Yeah. Like that's just so silly. But he comes away realizing most of them are kind of vapid and bad people, except for Gatsby is the only one he admires, but only because Gatsby is someone who's like, no, like I want to make something of myself. Like everyone else just takes it for granted, and Nick like can't, he's like, he turns out very cynical at the end. Right.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting juxtaposition because it's like a critique of wealth and like old money and that kind of stuff and that extravagance. And yet when you watch it, you're kind of like, I mean, that's the American dream. Like, to fucking do this shit. Yeah. And yet it's something that's, it's like a story and a theme that's repeated over and over and over. And even in Succession, I'm sure you could burrow out very similar things.
Yeah.
And actually something I thought about too, something close to our hearts, the ending of The Great Gatsby, very similar to the ending of the most recent season of Industry. Sorry to spoil it for people. But you know what? It's the best show on television, so maybe watch it.
Hell yeah, get to it.
But the way that Yasmin chooses to be with Jon Snow,
right? Of course.
I don't think it's like as simple as like over Rob,
right?
But she could see this future with Rob that she's like, no, I'm going to choose the future that is sensible for a person of my class.
But she is determined in the decision, is what I'm saying.
Also, her life is fucked.
Yeah, but like never in all seasons has she been like, I am inclined to living with Rob as a partner forever.
No.
She's been very clear in wanting fame, wanting money, just kind of being kind of forthright about it.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a desirable quality and made to be a desirable quality in modern television or modern women, right? Maybe in the 20s that would have been villainized. If Daisy's character had been like, no, I want to do it for the money.
Well, I think it's sort of villainized in industry too. The other thing too is like what's so fucking great about that show is that Rob, a big part of his story is the impossibility of mobility out of his class too, right? Because there's this incredible scene. Because remember in the first season, now we're going to talk for the next hour about just industry. So
yes.
No, but in the first season, he comes under the wing of that guy, that older guy who works at the bank, right? And there's this scene where he takes him to a tailor and buys him a suit. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And he reveals that he's actually Scottish.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh, you're Scottish. I didn't realize it. And he's like, you got to pretend to be upper class English
I hide it.
in this
I
game.
sound English.
I pretend to be English.
Exactly.
And he says this incredible line where he says something along the lines of like, none of them ever notice, but they never forget.
Yeah.
And you always have to like be on your guard, and you always have to hide, and you always have to pretend. For people of his class. You always have to pretend with these people. That's a huge theme in industry. Go watch it. And it's a theme in this. Gatsby pretends to be part of this, and he uses his real money that he's made through crime to pretend to be part of this upper class to, make these big parties so he can hopefully one day Daisy will stumble into his fucking mansion, which is crazy. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a fucking good fucking story.
Do they say how through crime?
Bootlegging.
They do it very quickly. I feel like they're like, oh, he came into some fortune on a boat with some old guy who had money, and then...
Yeah, but that guy died and he didn't get his fortune.
Didn't leave him anything. Yeah.
But he like adopted his persona basically. Mm-hmm. And then he started into this like criminal enterprise with Wolfsheim, and they were selling bootleg booze over the counter of the pharmacies that he owned.
Right,
that was what they say in the movie.
Right.
In the book, if I recall, it's just straight up straight up bootlegging. I haven't fucking read the book in so long. It's pretty good though.
Oh, I didn't even expect to be moved like that by the end of the book. Like, obviously very late to that literature, but I'm sure when all the children read it, they felt the same way that I do now.
I don't think so. I think this is one of those books that like everyone has read at least once, so everyone weirdly has an opinion, but it's also like a lot of people I also think hated it because they had to read it in like grade 9 or whatever. But about the film though, I think what's great about the movie is like I love the book, but the movie is so pointedly not the book.
Yeah.
And it's trying. So there was like in a review, someone said something, a good line they said was like, when the movie is not being Gatsby, it's interesting. Mm-hmm. And when it's trying to be Gatsby, it's not good. And I kind of think that is like pretty accurate.
When you say like when it's being the book, is it all of Tobey Maguire's parts? I think like the like philosophizing, the kind of like
and the more quiet emotional moments, because like the way Baz Luhrmann has like created, like the movie is basically the party from Romeo and Juliet nonstop for like 90 minutes. But when you think of what the party would be like in the 20s, it would probably be very staid and relaxed, like less insane.
Oh, I bet.
But in this movie, it's like you said, they have $1 billion tinsel budget and like, yeah.
I think what's crazier is that Baz Luhrmann saw the gif of Leo DiCaprio holding a champagne glass and was like, I can make a movie around
that
this.
was his audition, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think of Leo in this?
That was going to be my controversial take.
Let's go.
And this is not an exaggeration or like meant to be a joke, but I think Mark Wahlberg would be a better Great Gatsby. I think He would be cute enough at that age. He would be more compelling. He also has like a villainous look about him. Because you would buy that he came into this money through some kind of deceit.
Right.
You would buy it that he's like really fucking a get-go guy. Like, you can't take him for a sucker.
Yeah.
Leo DiCaprio's character looks like a child could beat the shit out of him.
A little bit.
And I just don't buy that he's like this fucking, like, he survived the war and he like came back and did all this shit by himself and still talks like a baby.
Yeah.
But Mark Wahlberg would eat his ass in a lunch.
Literally?
Eat his lunch. Just like Nick Carraway.
I mean, I think Nick Carraway would be into that, but you know, yeah. Do you mean Mark Wahlberg would be like, Tom Holland, I got all this money. I'm trying to get with this chick. She's over there.
Exactly.
Y'all need a pilot?
Let him act with all the Spider-Mans.
Yeah, like I don't disagree. I think this is one of the few instances where I think Leo is miscast. I don't think he's great in this. He's kind of doing a mix-up between his like Wolf of Wall Street and The Aviator.
Yeah.
He's not even coming close to touching either of those films with how good he is. In this movie, I just don't think... it just doesn't work for me.
It just doesn't work. The only compelling part is when he gets really angry and desperate in that room when they're both fighting over Daisy, and he like really fucking becomes... He goes full Leo.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. That's like all of 20 seconds.
I truly think it's so funny because I think the cast, Tobey Maguire is like really inspired casting.
Yeah.
I think his performance is okay.
Yeah.
I think Carey Mulligan is perfect.
She's great.
At that time, if you could choose anyone to play this role, she's perfect.
Michelle Williams.
I don't think so. I think Carey Mulligan. I think Michelle Williams would bring too much gravitas to it.
Yeah,
and it
fair.
would like you know.
She couldn't be like a floozy. Like,
no, Carey Mulligan, like you believe more as this, and like Carey Mulligan's fucking great. Like, but in this movie, certainly you're just kind of like, yeah, she's such perfect casting. There's everyone else is Australian. Another issue I do have with this film is like. And I get it, okay? I get Baz Luhrmann is Australian.
Yeah.
But, like, this is, like, a story that's one of the most quintessential New York stories. And they film nothing in New York.
Oh, it's all in
just,
Australia?
like, green screen shit. And it doesn't look particularly good, unfortunately. I don't know. Do you think Jay-Z had to go to Sydney and be like, yeah, I love New York. New York's dope.
Melbourne.
I'll tell you everything about New York, Baz Luhrmann. And he's like, thank you, Jay. I appreciate it. Actually, he's more like, thank you, Jay. Appreciate
Concrete
it.
Jungle where dreams are made of.
He's like, did you invite Kanye? You invite Kanye down to Disney, to Sydney, so we could go over Watch the Throne.
Jesus.
Yeah. I think when you think the 20s, you definitely think the Kanye and Jay-Z album Watch the Throne, which has some.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's that fucking Romeo and Juliet shit, right? Like, it's very intentionally for that audience.
This movie feels like Baz Luhrmann. If people were like, so what were your big inspirations for Great Gatsby? He would be like, my own film, Romeo and Juliet. Like it's very much like I think he's trying to recapture that brilliance, babe, brilliance.
The way you are making intense eye contact with me right now.
Then the brilliance, but and. I don't know if it totally works. Mostly because I hate that song. I hate No Church in the Wild. I think it's a bad song.
What?
Yeah, it sucks.
Crazy take, dude.
No, dude, that's one of the worst songs on that album.
Oh my god.
And that album has some really bad songs.
There's really struggling. Okay, we're not gonna be bashing on the Carter family. It's a hard.
I would never do that. As you know,
it's a hard time.
Watch the Throne. Such an interesting album because. It was at a time. Now we talked about industry. We're never going to talk about the movie again. Watch the Throne is such an interesting album because it was a huge hit at the time. A couple of the songs were like everywhere, and yet this was a time when Kanye was like at the top of his game, and Jay-Z was Jay-Z. He's being Jay-Z, but that album is like it has some of the most incredible work on it. and then some of the worst shit either of those artists have ever done. That's always been my main review of that album has been like, it's got some amazing stuff and some of the most awful songs by these two people. And I think No Church in the Wild is not a very good song.
Damn.
Got it.
And Baz Luhrmann's like, this is perfect for my masterpiece.
Yeah. This is the song that says Gatsby to me.
Hello, Mr. Jay-Z. We must speak post haste.
And Jay-Z is like, Mr. Luhrmann.
What the fuck? What does he?
Could my wife have a song on the soundtrack, please?
And she does, but of course
she had. There's a cover of a
Crazy in Love.
Is that Beyonce or Destiny's Child? That's Beyonce.
It's Beyonce. Yeah. It's Beyonce.
Solo Bae. Yeah.
Solo Bae. The thing with like the parts where you talked about with Nick Carraway, Tobey Maguire's character doing all the reading.
Yeah.
And like thinking out loud, doing his philosophizing.
Well, he's writing the novel.
He's writing the novel. Yeah. Rethinking the life that he's lived with Great Gatsby. Why did he like get money from him?
No.
Why is he doing this?
Hope. He just got hope. That's it.
Oh, so that's why he's in an asylum.
No, like the asylum bit. Well, first of all, he's an extreme alcoholic, which they put right on the form.
They made him that.
I don't know. Like it is. The thing is like he went to the asylum, I think, he was suffering from extreme alcoholism and I think psychosis due to alcoholism or whatever. Oh. But it does like make the opening scene of this film like does make it seem like he's gone totally insane. Yeah. Like it's like the opening sequence of a Tim Burton film and you're just kind of like, what the fuck happened to this guy? And he's just like, I went to so many parties. It's like, oh, okay. Yeah.
But also he like when he's recounting, he's like, this was the second and only time I'd had a drink.
Yeah.
And this is already like more than halfway through the film.
Yeah, but there's an aspect to his like unreliability and stuff and he's like he's like, oh, there's 2 times I ever got drunk, but then it's like, oh, but then he's going ham the rest of the time basically. And I think it's even more pronounced in the book is like they're just fucking he's like introduced to alcohol and he's like, I love this shit. Yeah. And that's why, you know what, as many people do feel. Yeah.
She says with a
this
mug of wine.
Fucked up on Riesling tonight.
Yeah, dude. That's why one of the most devastating scenes is when they're all fighting over Daisy and they're all in that room and they have a big row. And once the dust settles of all that shit, Nick Calloway's character is like, I just remembered it's my birthday. Yeah.
That's like one of the key devastating lines is that he's gotten so wrapped up with other people's nonsense that he's forgotten his birthday. Also,
he's forgotten himself.
Also, he's an alcoholic.
Yeah.
But it is like, and I don't think this movie does a particularly good job of it. But I think like the idea is that what Nick experiences just cuts him so deeply in his cynicism, like creates this like absurd cynicism in him. Everything he's experienced has disillusioned him, certainly with New York and the East. And he's with a lot of people, a lot of like academic stuff talks about Nick represents like the pastoral America, and that he goes to New York, which is this urban metropolis full of old money and things like this. But because he's a Westerner, quote unquote, a Westerner from the Western United States, he can't cut it there.
Yeah.
He's an animal that's not built for that time.
Yeah.
And that place. And yet the irony, much like Nick says to Gatsby, is like, you can't recreate the past. That actually doesn't exist in America anymore. The pastoral is gone because of the industrialization of the country, which is symbolized by the Valley of Ashes and things like that. And so what is left for a person like Nick who wants to believe in the hope and goodness of people and has this like this pastoral idea of America, and yet he's like, I can't find it anywhere.
His gentle sensibilities.
You can become an alcoholic.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
I find that might be true even today. If you come from somewhere slightly remote and then you're just like plopped into New York City, good luck.
Oh yeah.
Shit.
I mean, yeah, I'm from a really small town, and like moving to a city was like a huge adjustment for a time, definitely. Yeah.
Is that why you're a raging alcoholic today?
Absolutely, among other reasons, yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
But that was a big one back. I've been an alcoholic for years, so but like that was a big one back then, and now it's more our relationship that drives
it. More living with this old ball and chain dragging me down. Right, fellas?
I want to be like Guy Pearce in The Brutalist. I want to drink a bottle of Madeira every night.
Oh man. Live to be all of 31. Hell yeah. I just realized Guy Pearce plays the same guy he did in Lawless, kind of. Just
he's pretty fucking evil in Lawless. Doesn't he like pickle a person's balls?
Well, he does a lot of things because they're like, oh, he called me a Nancy, and then he fucking goes ape shit.
Yeah.
And proves the point in most terrible ways.
Yeah. There's something, someone, I listened to a podcast they brought up about The Brutalist, and they were saying something about Guy Pearce's like his innate energy of like how he's kind of pretty, but he has this like seething anger to him too. Mm-hmm. And he certainly shows it in The Brutalist. And but like also LA Confidential was the other example this person brought up.
That's right.
And I was like, yeah, that's such, because I just read that book, and Ed Exley is such a fucking snake, but he's also like a good boy, but also a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
And yeah, Guy Pearce is good at that shit. But yeah.
There's so many like, that's so interesting when who is the fucking villain in Great Gatsby to like, who is the antagonist? Well, I guess antagonist is not really villain. I know what you mean.
Well,
like
if Nick is the protagonist, I would say Gatsby is the antagonist. And Daisy, but Nick is witness to Gatsby's story where he's the protagonist and Daisy is his antagonist in a way. Tom and Daisy are kind of villains, but they're not the antagonists.
Right.
I think that the deeper protagonist-antagonist relationship between the two of them is that Nick is profoundly changed by experiencing Gatsby.
Yes.
All of him as a person.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily have to be accomplished through villainy, basically. It's my opinion on the matter. And as someone who does what I love for a living, I knew it.
Hiccups.
And by does what I love, I mean drink.
I mean drinking.
I mean fucking getting wasted.
Relax, Beyonce.
Getting fucked up on pharmacy over-the-counter alcohol.
I've been drinking.
Yeah.
I've been drinking. Hi.
Oh, I'm back.
What's up?
Well, you know, when I say I need to use the washroom, it means I have to throw up all the alcohol so I could fit more in.
Yeah, he's a recycle queen.
Which is, you know, look, no one's said it's healthy, but I think it's healthy. Yeah.
Keeps the pounds off,
Yeah.
baby.
Yeah.
That's how you do it.
Yeah.
That's how you party, and a little party never killed anybody.
You know, alcohol.
Except Gatsby.
Alcohol can be a weight loss drug as long as you don't eat.
See, that's the hard part.
Yeah.
Damn it! I like a good, burger chaser after a little wine.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I never really asked you, but I think I know the answer. Like, do you like this movie in general?
I don't like Baz Luhrmann's work in general. I'm sorry. It's pretty boring to me.
Yeah.
I see the appeal. I see it. But I'm also late to cinema like this. You know what I mean? What
I think is so fascinating, like Romeo and Juliet works for me, obviously. I think it works for a lot of people. But I think one of the reasons it works is that, like, thematically, Romeo and Juliet it's a play. From way back.
Yes.
I think that The Great Gatsby is so layered and dense and interesting that it doesn't quite work with Baz Luhrmann because he's such a glitzy, glam kind of director. And yet, I think he fucking rocks the ending. I think the ending is fucking awesome.
Oh, absolutely.
But yet, I do feel kind of thematically dissatisfied with this film a lot. But like at the end of it, I'm just like, oh man, the ending. It's so because he is a good filmmaker. I'm like, it's just perfect with the green light just slowly fading into the distance. It's so amazing, and
And I mean, the writing, the fucking last line is like so devastating in the book, and he uses it at the end of this film too. And there's no.
I remember reading. I wrote The Great Gatsby like when I was in high school, and then I reread it like mid-20s when I was getting really into writing and stuff like that. And like something you come to appreciate about Fitzgerald is you're just like, this dude is such a good writer. Like he's so unique, and he just he could
absolutely
The Great Gatsby, for being like it's like 25,000 words, and it's so, every line is so packed with something interesting, and like it's so great in that way, and that final line is like unbelievably good. It's
Holy
so
shit.
fucking crazy. Yeah. It's so, that final line is so good that it's so crazy that someone thought of it.
Yeah.
Like,
there's multiple moments like that. Like even in the middle of the movie when like Nick Carraway's character like says a thing, scratches it out, and says another thing. I'm like, good God. And also like English is my second language. So to me, it's like mind-boggling that they would even know a way to like turn a phrase like that.
Yeah. And you're like, you're new to reading too. So
I'm trying. We're trying.
But yeah, it is like, it's just, it's crazy. It's so he is very, when you read those old books, and I'm not an expert on them, but like, it's so different from something like Hemingway, which is so like just straightforward and brilliant in its own way. But then Fitzgerald, you're just kind of like, oh, this is a dude who's like, I fucking love writing. I love writing good shit. And you're just like, holy fuck, it's like poetry. It's like, it's so amazing. Yeah.
I like that. And you asked me before if I liked it or not. It's not the content of it really. It's the quality of its like theaterness. Where they come off like these fucking theater kids, and it becomes a little insufferable. It's a little cringe to like sit through it all and watch it.
I think the editing in this movie is really bad. It's really tough because it's constantly cutting away to stuff where you're just like, oh, they're like the party scenes. There's no like, I guess you could say that I get a sense that you're like, this is kind of what it feels like to be fucking wasted at a party. But I think sometimes it doesn't totally work. And it's like trying to create this visual story with Nick and Jordan and Gatsby, especially at that first big party scene. And yet it's also trying to be like, hey, look at this, like, look at this thing and look at that thing. And like, oh, look at this person. They're dancing and like crazy shit. Like, and it kind of doesn't hold together very well, in my opinion. And I don't know. But I like one of Baz's movies.
What else has he done?
Romeo and Juliet. He did Moulin Rouge. He did Elvis most recently.
Oh, yeah. Fucking Moulin Rouge, dude.
Yeah, I've never seen all of it because it's interminable. But yeah.
Some bangers in there, though. Great song choice. I mean, they fucking...
Yeah, Smells Like Teen Spirit was a really good song.
Was that in...
Don't they sing that in Moulin Rouge?
Oh my God, I have no memory of that. Holy shit. I was only thinking of Missy Elliott.
Missy Elliott? Wait, are you thinking...
Queen Latifah?
Neither of those people. I don't think
are they not the like Voulez-vous coucher? Oh,
no, that's
Christina Aguilera.
Christina Aguilera, Pink, Maya, and someone else.
Yeah, that song is in Moulin Rouge.
Yeah, the song was recorded specifically for Moulin Rouge.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, what do you think of that song? Because this is a great song.
Fucking
that was like there was 4 performers on that song, and I forget the fucking 4th one. Maya.
Eve.
Maybe.
I think it's Eve.
Eve might have dropped a rap verse in her rapping ways. That song was such a big deal, and it's such a great like just so like good. 4 of like
Pumps
pop powerhouses and Maya, doing a song that was played every day from fucking 2001 until 2005.
Yeah, formative years for his prepubescent child.
And every day until fucking Christina Aguilera dropped "Dirty," they were playing that song.
Oh man, that shit. That rewired my brain. I tell you what.
What, Dirty or Voulez-vous
Just
coucher
her voice, like Christina Aguilera's voice, like
good singer.
Good God.
Yeah.
Anyway, she's gonna do good someday.
I will say I think the Lana Del Rey song in this movie is fucking great.
Yeah.
I think it's like one of her best songs. Actually,
it's so surprising that it's.
But Lana Del Rey is the perfect person for this kind of story because she has that Americana-ness to her.
Exactly.
And you can tell she's someone who's probably like really deep into The Great Gatsby, and especially at that time, her whole vibe had a lot to do with this kind of thing. I actually think there's one of my favorite songs by her is a song called "Old Money," which is from her album that came out at that time, Ultraviolence, I think.
Ooh.
And it feels like it was like the B-side to this song. It's weirdly like connected in a way, but yeah. Yeah. Anyway, Lana Del Rey, that song's good. We don't have to go over the plot because everyone's read this book, or you should have by now. And if you haven't, it's 100
years
pages.
old.
It's also 100 pages long, and it's tiny. So
yeah, even I read it. So get it together.
Anything else on this guy? Are you good? That's my question.
I want to ask you, what is your favorite scene from this film that like stays with you? You think
the
about
end.
It? The ending.
The ending.
Yeah.
The ending, I would argue, is the only truly great scene in this film. I think a lot of stuff has like a lot of cool flourish, but no scene particularly grabs me except for, I would say, the ending kind of montage leading up to the end.
Yeah.
Although like I do like, I like the moments where I actually do like the scene when Daisy and Gatsby meet again for the first time with the flowers and the rain and the.
Oh yeah.
It's very funny and like fun. And
it's cute.
Silly. Yeah.
I think for me it's when Nick Carraway's character gets an invitation, and then he goes to the party and just demands someone look at his goddamn invitation. He's like, I'm the only one who got invited with an actual letter, and no one cared. No one wants to look at it.
He's such a rule follower, that guy.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's great. He's like this fucking mess, and
hey,
and you know, he just gets. He's kind of a beta in this the whole time. I'm sorry. He does get cucked like left and right. Like he's always third wheeling in the entire film. Like no matter what room he's in.
You know what though? What's so annoying about him is he's like, no, I love third wheeling. This is so much fun, and it's like, dude, take control of your life.
My God, man.
He needs
Have some self-respect.
He needs to work out and take some fucking human growth formula or whatever, and like, you know, start listening to a little Jordan Peterson, Andrew Tate. You know, become a real man.
You know what? It's probably good that he just started drinking instead.
Probably.
This is a victory for us all.
Yeah. Sorry, are you saying that Jordan Peterson, his health claims are not totally up to snuff?
I'm saying I would rather be a raging alcoholic.
Because I wouldn't be, I don't want to associate with you if that's your feelings about him.
You know, as a to-be proud Canadian, I will not associate myself with other Canadians.
With Jordan Peterson?
Canker sore.
Anyway, go see The Brutalist. Watch this movie if you want to.
Fuck yeah.
Thank you so much for listening.
Stay great.
The next episode, or the one you heard before this, Academy Awards. I don't know which one, but yeah.
Likely next.
Talking about the Academy.
Woo!
We'll probably talk more about The Brutalist, I imagine. It'll be a subject of discussion.
Hot.
But also we'll talk about Amelia Perez.
Absolutely not.
Nope. Just kidding, because we're never going to see it. Yeah, thank you for listening. Have a good evening.
Bye.
If it's evening, have a good evening. If it's not, another time of day. Just have that too.
Just have that too.
Just have a day. Take a day.
I'm taking your drink away.
Take a day to do what you love.
Cutting you off.
You won't have to work a day in your life. Bye.